Hi, welcome back to Ilana and Jamie, and today we're going to speak a little bit about opening up the topic of conflict resolution. I want to start with a sordid story from our past. When we were first married, Ilana's family is all from France, on her mother's side, and we were there for Passover, for Pesach, with all of the siblings and this and the other, and we had one of those nightmare situations, you know, where like all the couples went in different cars, and I was leading, and I was getting lost, and I was getting irritated, and I wouldn't ask for directions, and Ilana was navigating.
Wait.
Not brilliantly. This was before Waze.
Can you imagine I was that old?
Maps and everything, and it was just a nightmare, and we were getting snappy and frustrated, and I was being a real ogre and really difficult. And then we had to finish. Of course, we got there, and we got out, and the couples behind us had a brilliant time laughing and getting lost in
because
Paris.
they were getting round and round and round the roundabout. It was so much fun while we were like...
And we were like, rah, right? And it just didn't want to hang out with them. I didn't want to hang out. I just felt terrible. I felt, you know, it's like there's this nasty mood.
Yeah.
And from that nasty mood, we had to like pop out and be all perfect and fun and be in a good space. And we wanted to talk about how to get the mood back, you know?
Between your mood and my navigation skills, it was just a total disaster.
Pretty bad.
Yeah,
pretty bad.
So conflict resolution is obviously really important for couples, and there's a lot of great wisdom on conflict resolution, which we would like to cover at some point. But today we're going to talk about the steps before conflict resolution, because that's where people really, really get it wrong.
Right, and Lana's got two brilliant principles she wants to share.
Two brilliant principles. Okay, good. Principle number one. The first problem with conflict resolution is when I am angry, hurt, disappointed, betrayed, all those things that we are when we're in a conflict. The last thing I want to do is make up.
Right.
That's the last thing I want to do. I don't want to come in and say, oh honey, like, you know, let's make this all better, because I'm angry and hurt, disappointed and all that stuff. So
also, by the way, you might think that you're right, and I don't actually want to get back into a good place because I think you've done the wrong thing over here.
Yeah, that's right. So the first thing we need to do is we need to give ourselves motivation to actually resolve the conflict when we don't really have any, given, you know, how bad we feel at the time. So here's a simple tip for motivation. The reason that you don't want to resolve this is because you're really upset with the other person and you don't want to make it easy for them. You don't want to be sweet to them. So a little bit of a funny thing to say, but don't do it for them. Do it for you. You're miserable also.
Right.
You're lonely. You're hurt. You're upset. This morning you were fine. Then you had an incident and now you're miserable. Once this is over and once this is done, you yourself are going to feel better. You don't have to do it for the sake of the other person if you don't have that energy because you're so upset or hurt by them. But you can do it for yourself. Leverage your own selfishness because you're going to be happier when you're beyond this.
Right, and it's such an important point. And don't worry about this like letting them off the hook thing. It's not true.
Yeah.
When you're in a good space, there's no greater revenge, by the way, when you're like in a good space after a conflict that the other partner's still upset anyway.
That's mean. Okay. The second point is that most people hope that once they've resolved the conflict, they're going to feel better and they're going to be in a better mood, which is partially true. However, what we've also found is that if you can get yourselves into a good mood, you're going to have a much higher chance of resolving the conflict. You know, it's like having hot food in an icy room. You know, it's going to go cold very, very quickly. If you can warm up the room, if you can warm up the context, the ability to connect is going to come much more naturally.
And this is really counterintuitive because most people think that the problem caused the mood. And on a certain level, I guess maybe it did. But the truth is, you've had situations where people have been really moody with you or nasty to you, and you just haven't let it like descend into chaos. You've kept a high mood, and it's much easier to resolve, right? Or you've been in a situation where you've been pulled into it. So it's counterintuitive, but the mood, okay, when you're in a high mood environment, like a better place, you find the wisdom, the context, the energy to solve it much more easily and without anywhere near as much conflict.
Yeah, so again, it's not an easy thing to do, but we found that the two H's for this are very helpful. A little bit of humor or a little bit of humility can go a really long way to just sort of break that ice and that tension.
Yeah, so like sometimes when we were first, which doesn't happen so much anymore, thank goodness, you know, in terms of the tensions, but when we were first married, I would just sometimes like grab Ilana's hand and just start running if we were in the garden in the park.
So annoying.
It was so annoying. But we'd just like break the mood, and then I'd be just like, I'm really sorry, man. And you'd be able to find the energy for that more easily because you kind of snapped out of this like, right? So snap out of it, you know, and realize even selfishly that you want that. The two H's, and see you soon.
See you soon.